I want to say that. Hi, everybody. This is Joanne Eisen with Reach the Unlimited. We didn't forget about you. I know it's 9 minutes after 9. I'm sorry,
We were
7
too
minutes after
busy talking, weren't we?
9. We've been chatting away and we got lost in time. So thank you all for being here. I have to stop clapping. I'm trying to stop that habit. I want to welcome Janine. Janine is a lovely guest that I love having on my show with her guides. And we're here to bring, like I said in the little I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my comments and they're not working about love. It's an inspiration talk about love, hope, and really strength about what we're going through. Hi, Julia. So, Janine, thank you. We've
So
been
I'm just checking my.
chattering. We've been chattering so long. It's like, oh, wait a minute. How do you do the live thing again?
We were chatting for about an hour, haven't we?
So, Janine, tell everybody a little about yourself. For those that don't know you, I'm sure everybody does.
But I think most people do know about
Yes.
me, but what do I say about my God, I'm hopeless. You can tell I'm hopeless at interviews, Janine talking about herself's not a good plan. No. Well, basically, you've invited me on to do a trance demo today, haven't you?
Yes.
So I do trance mediumship and I teach trance mediumship and I do mediumship in general, clairvoyance mediumship. So, yes, here I God, I'm hopeless. Here I am. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm lighthearted, I'm fun.
Yes.
I can't possibly take anything seriously.
Yes.
And I'm here out of my heart tonight. And just
Yes.
to sit with you, Joe, it's just honestly, it's just such an honor. Every time we come on together, I absolutely love it because it's so laid back, it's so easy going, it's just like an informal chat, and that's just what I love about coming on here. So
You're so
you know how
sweet.
much I love it.
Our goal has always been to help and enlighten people, which is what I love doing. And your guides are always so helpful. And I know that I told you that I felt like your guides have a plan today. So we're just going to go with the guides plan today. And you guys can ask questions. We'll see how it all rolls as we move forward. But one of the things that I wanted to do before I started was for all of us who do healing and send out love and energy to remember all of those people. I know there's people all over the world who really could use that energy because it's been a tough time for a lot of people. But especially right now in the US, if you haven't heard about the tornado that ripped through a lot of different states, and a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of people are without homes and water and, shelter and a life. And, it's really been a hard thing, and they're missing their loved ones. And, it's really been a tough time. So if we can remember them, especially over the next, as long as you can remember them, because they're going to need a lot of help and healing. So I just wanted to send out that love to all those people, and that we can all make sure that we do that in our energy as well. So today, though, we're going to be talking to Janine's guides about whatever is going on, because a lot of the people that I've been talking to, they're really feeling the pressures of the world these days. It's been really intense. And so the hope that we have is to bring healing and to bring love and compassion and calm to all of us through whatever it is that we're going to be going through for however long it's going to take us. Because as we know, this lifetime is about our learning. And so that's our goal today. Right, Janine?
Yes, definitely. And I think, sending out healing as well is so important, isn't it? I was actually only sitting today on my little prayer altar that I've got set up in my bedroom, and, sending healing out to everybody around the world, because I think at the moment everyone is really suffering, aren't they?
Yes.
Either it's mentally or emotionally, or losing their homes, like you're talking about.
Yes,
With what's
exactly.
going on over there. I just think it's so important that we understand that everybody is healing, and that we're all holding on to stuff, and just to be kind to one another.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Kindness.
Yes.
So I don't know why it's just been put in my head, but just
Well, I think
kindness, to be kind to one another.
people are forgetting that part of life. I think in today's world, it seems like we're always the us against them, the vax against the unvax. In our world, it's the Democrats against the Republicans. It's like, why? We just have to care and respect each other. And you can believe what you believe, and I can believe what I believe. Doesn't mean we have to fight about it. It's just caring about. We've lost that, I think, right now for some reason, caring about each other.
Do you know what I did the other day though? It was, or not the other day, a couple of weeks ago. I
Mhm.
actually had done something. I thought, right, I'm going to go out today and I'm going to smile. It sounds like I'm bloody crazy, but
No, I
I'm
love
going to
it.
walk out and smile at every single person I
Mhm.
come into contact with. And I
Mhm.
smiled at one lady. She's a little old lady and she was walking
Mhm.
up the street. It was in our local town. And I smiled at her and oh my God, didn't it uplift her? And I thought, I've made a difference to somebody during
Yeah.
the day. And I honestly think spiritualism isn't about all the readings and all the glamour.
Mhm.
It's just like making a difference, making somebody smile, lifting
Yeah.
them a little bit, opening a door for somebody as you pass them, or
Right.
just a phone call or anything. I always make it my mission
Thank you.
every day to do
Yeah.
one thing, no matter how
Mhm.
small it is, just to
I
make a bit of a difference.
I feel that a lot of times we
Mm.
miss that point because, especially during this time of the year where everybody's thinking of Christmas and family and dinners and parties or whatever, that we
Mm.
forget to think outside of our zone.
Mm.
Think about that person that we come in contact with. What was their day like, or what did they
Yeah.
experience? What hardships did they have? And it's not about, changing their life and healing them from all of their whatever patterns. It's
No.
about that hug. It's about that handshake. It's about that smile. It's about that caring back and forth to each other.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know where that come from. I'm sure spirit leading this.
I don't know where that came from.
Just put it
I
in my
wonder
head.
where that came from. We already said that we gave it to the guides to direct and lead us in our conversation today.
It's just making a difference, isn't
It is
it?
making a difference. It really
Doesn't.
is. It's not even, I mean, I know that we tend to get caught up in Christmas too about buying the right present. Is the person going to like that? And da 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 da, where we get so caught up on that physical thing versus if you go and you find something that that you love or they love, that's what counts. It's not about who are you going to
Yeah.
beat or who are you going to make look better than or whatever, all this egoic
Yeah.
stuff that we tend to get into. My mom doesn't love me as much as she does my brothers, or, I mean, all the family dynamics that happen during this wonderful time of the year.
Oh, God.
If we could just put all that aside and care about each other and say, Mom, I love you. And my brothers, I love you too. And I do, you guys. So
Do you know what
I do
spirit have just
have
put in
mom
my
and
head though?
brothers. What?
As we're saying it, they've literally
Mm.
just said to me, they said, yeah, but one kind thing for yourself each day, Janine, as well. I
Oh,
thought, oh, right, okay then.
yes.
See?
Absolutely. Yes, you do need to do self-love. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we do tend not to do, especially if
Mm.
you're a mother. You tend to put the whole family, like, I don't know about you, but when I had little kids, I would, well, at one point, because I'm hearing my daughter right now talking in my head. When I was a little kid, you didn't celebrate Christmas. But there were times where I would stay up all night doing the whatever to make everything better the next day. And then I would be tired and cranky the next day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because we
Yeah.
hadn't had that self love, is it? It's
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
important, isn't it? And we feel guilty, don't we, for caring
Yes.
about our own needs
Yes.
as well.
Yes. I want to thank you all for being here. I see all your chats going on. Thank you very much. When we do get into the trance, we're gonna the way that we have it set up right now is let's let the guides do kind of what they want to do because I really feel like they have a plan. But also we're going to be taking questions as well. So if you do put your questions in there, that would be helpful for whatever reason. We'll just go. We're playing it by ear. And if I did miss your question, I will try to get to it. If not, then we'll take care of it at another time in some way. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And thank you all very much for sharing this time with us. We sure do appreciate it, huh, Janine?
Yes, definitely. I just appreciate coming on here because I always love coming on here. I'd come on here every day if I could, but and your live streams are so much more brilliant because I've done a live stream the other day and I've had nothing but technical musical interference, and I think I'd done a gathering a couple of weeks ago on the live stream and Richard was like fading off into the distance and it was so funny, so I've given up with live streams. Come on with you.
I remember when you said that, and I remember in the beginning when Richard used to be really faint. And I'm wondering, yeah, I didn't hear that one, so I don't know what happened, but it reminded me of the beginning when you first started doing live streams with Richard, and everybody would have to really, I would wear earbuds.
Well, do you know why they couldn't
I
hear
think I
him?
have here.
Because
Yeah,
on my iPad here, my husband
Yeah.
bought me one of those protective covers, so if you drop it, it doesn't smash.
Oh.
But what happened is, all the way through my gatherings, it blocked off the speaker, so no one could ever hear him. And as soon as I took off the protective cover, they could all hear him. I thought, oh my God, and sat there for how many months?
Yeah.
So don't we love technology? It's always the way, isn't it?
Yes. Karen, it's absolutely okay to share on Facebook. This is all open, so no problems with that. And also with
I'll make sure my volume's turned up.
So Janine, Kathy has a question, and then we'll let you go and get ready for your guides to come through. But she has the question of how to find a healing trance person locally in her area. How can I find training for trance healing locally? Do you have any suggestions for that?
It depends where she lives. Does she live in the UK?
Where do you live, Kathy? I know online is amazing.
But she prefer it to be in the same room, would she?
But no, I don't know. Go ahead and tell us what you are asking more specifically. Fort Worth, Texas. I would say in the U.S. I'm going to take your name, Kathy, and go ahead.
Because I don't know. I mean, I know plenty of trance mediums that could help teach and help her, but I think a lot of them do it on Zoom, don't they?
Right.
These days, I don't know anybody in the US that are running circles that you can physically go into. I don't know off the top of my head who are doing them. I mean, I know we've got lots of different mediums that I could suggest. If she messages me, I can let her know who they are, or message you if you know anyone as well.
Yeah, I think one of us, both of us will connect with you, Kathy, because I have a couple ideas. Yeah. And I know for me, sitting in circle on Zoom, I've been doing it for a while now. I can't tell you how long. I don't remember. Time goes too fast. But that has really helped me to sit in Zoom. I still feel it. There's a group of us that meet every week, and it's not about specifically being trained. It's about the sitting part of it.
Yeah.
That absolutely is where you do the learning. And it's also about, from my experience, it's also about doing your inner work as well. So it works together. Sitting, doing your inner work in what I would call in the power meditation, whatever. I'm not going to get into the debate about that, but sitting in that power, working on your inner self, but then also sitting in a group on a regular basis are two very important things. No, it's not dangerous on Zoom. I've been doing it Janine's been doing it forever. I've been doing it forever. I have a couple groups that I do it with, and nobody ever gets stuck or lost. This is my opinion. I'm telling you my opinion, and Janine can tell you hers because she's more an expert than I am.
Well, I know, but
you absolutely are not going to get stuck in trance. Absolutely not. I do trance sitting on my own, even without anybody, which again, people will say you shouldn't do. There's nothing wrong with that. I come out, your spirit people are very smart. They're very intelligent. They absolutely know how to help you and work with you. So I've done it on Zoom. I work with a couple other well-known teachers that do it on Zoom, and I've never had a problem with it. So I don't know. What is your fear about it, Kathy?
I mean, I know certainly with my own development. I mean, to be honest, the majority of my development has been sat on my own.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see what I mean? And I think it's coming into a place of coming away from the fear, because the spirit world are always going to bring that unconditional love, and to be able to be present, to sit on your own and feel comfortable enough to do that. So
to answer your question, Kathy, about bad ones coming in, you have a team. My beliefs, again, anything I say is from my experience and my beliefs. I can only talk from my experience, is that I have a team that is my protector, and they don't let anything bad happen to me. Never had a bad experience. I've never had a bad spirit come through. But in my belief system also, I don't believe that bad spirits exist in the way that you're speaking about it. So I have not experienced it. I know that my team is very protective in my mediumship as well as in my trance of keeping me safe. And so that's my belief system. What is your thoughts on that, Janine?
I think it's what the intent we put out there, isn't it? If we put the intent
Exactly.
out with a positive energy and a positive vibration, that's what we're going to receive back. But to be honest, I used to sit with a friend from our local church. She used to come up every Tuesday and sit for me when Alice was just coming through on her own. And we used to sit in our living room, and she'd sit there with a little notepad and writing all the notes. She used to write down every single word Alice was saying, because she didn't really use a computer, and she'd just write it all down and say, this is what Alice said. But to be honest, the development was absolutely no different to what it was if I was sat with her or sat on Zoom. No energy difference. Absolutely, it made no difference whatsoever. It wasn't more or less. It was exactly the same. That's just, what I felt. But everyone's different, aren't they? Their own experiences. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I agree. I think we all have different belief systems that we're trying to work on as a part of our life lesson. So for me, I was raised in a very Catholic and Christian religion. So my big hurdle was to get over my old beliefs of all of the things that you would connect to religion. And to answer your question or your statement, Bridget, is I've never been afraid of trance. I was afraid of trance actually when I first started by my ignorance. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what actually happened. But at this point in time, I would rather stay in trance and not be, tell you the truth. In fact, so Janine and I were talking about that earlier, about how healing it is, how loving. You feel the love of the universe when you're in trance. You strip away all of the worldly pulls and thoughts and really ideas, and you just go into the place of who we really are, which is spirit. So when you do trance, you're just directly connecting to spirit, and you've now ripped away all those other human pools that we have that we are experiencing here. So absolutely, I would not be afraid of trance. You will get addicted to it if nothing else.
And to be honest, I sat for years on my own and didn't even know I was going into trance. Probably for about 5 years before I actually started speaking. I was slipping into trance on my own, and nothing ever happened to me in those 5 years. And to be honest, I think the more we sit on our own, the purer the energy, the purer the teachings of the spirit world, because they just become the teachers. So I think the more we can sit alone, actually, the better even.
I agree, hands down. It's caused me to be way more patient, to see things in the world way more differently than I did before. The thing about it, I think, is that, our purpose for living in this world, I believe, is to have that conflict, right? That duality of life. And a part of that is the pulls and the darkness of this human life, which is very difficult and hard. It can be very difficult and hard and scary. And, we were just talking about all these things that are happening in people's lives earlier. But when you go back to the connection to real spirit, to the real who we are, then you see nothing but love and the truth of why we're here, really, which helps you to get through it, I think, better. Not easy, but better.
Definitely. I would always say if somebody's never sat on their own for trance and never experienced it, maybe the first time to sit with somebody, whether it's on Zoom or with someone, but then after that, just go for it. Sit on your own, just open yourself up to the spirit world and just let them come in and give you the love that they want to give you, and take away all that fear, and just be present with them. And it's just so beautiful. We don't need, it's the spirit world that are teaching and guiding us. We just supply the space, don't we, for them to be able to come forward.
And they're doing it like when we were talking earlier, and a statement was made, you're like, I wonder where that came from. But it really is that they are, whether we know it or not, they're still working with us. But when you're in trance, you have more of a conversation with your team, your spiritual team, which is so helpful to have the insight.
And I think also, so I'll stop rabbiting on because I know everyone's waiting for me to go to trance, but I think also people have such an expectation of how trance should be, and there's so many different, some people go light, some people go dark, into a deeper state of trance, if you know what I mean, and then a lighter state. And some people believe, different levels, and I think each person is different, aren't they? They're
Mhm.
going to blend differently to the next
Absolutely.
medium. So there's no,
Mhm.
it's just taking away the expectation of how it should be developed, isn't it?
Um, So, Anna, I want to say the difference between trance and mediumship is when you're doing mediumship, you're at one certain wavelength in your awareness. When you do trance, you're in a deeper state of
Yeah.
awareness in your state of being. You're just in that state right before you go into sleep, and so they're working with you in a very deep level. When you're doing mediumship, you're just aware on a physical level of that particular spirit coming through. And it's not really as healing, and it's still healing, but it's not as healing when you're in trance. You're doing deeper healing because what you're doing when you're in doing mediumship is you're having a conversation with one particular communicator. Well, it's really about the state of the where you're at in the realm of your brain waves. I'll put it that way. I can go on with the other one, but what do you say to that one, Janine?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Trance is another form of mental mediumship, isn't it? It's
Right.
that they're coming in to say the words rather than us saying the words.
Right.
You know
That
what I
too.
mean? But
Totally
I
agree.
think there's an element of us there, isn't there? Because I
Mhm.
think if
Yeah.
we're not there, we're not alive, are we?
Exactly. 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 I mean, you do it well because you get way down to where you're almost not there. And that's something that, we
So I
strive to
try.
do. We
I
strive for that
try.
one. But there's no way we can ever mentally take completely our mind out of it for sure. Now,
Oh,
this is the last one, and then we'll go in. And Kathy, reach out to me, or I'll try to reach out to you, and we'll talk about it, and I'll connect you with Janine, and we'll go on with that conversation. But when you go into meditation and you see the thing about trance and mediumship, or really meditation or any form of spiritual work, is you're dealing with energy. And energy is different at different levels. And especially when you're like taking more of your ego or your mind out of the way, it's going to change that energy. And so, what you're doing when you go into those states is you're becoming more aware of the energy and the changing and the shifting of the energy. And if you don't understand that, then some of the energy can feel strong and you may not know what it is. But from my experience, again, and I've had many different experiences, and so can Janine, she can talk about this as well. There's usually there, I have never had anything bad, evil, horrible happen.
no,
Never.
never, never.
And so to understand or whatever's making you scared, it's usually what we do is retreat from that instead of face it and understand it. So what you do is you go back into it and say, what is this? What are they? Because it could be something that's within you that they're helping you to heal. And it feels uncomfortable, as we all know when we're dealing with stuff that we're like, I don't want to go there. It's not fun. And we all want to run the other way. But the only way to get through it is forward. So
Yeah.
it's understanding these experiences. And I've never had anything scary or bad happen to me ever. And when I do feel uncomfortable, it's usually because I'm facing something within myself that I don't want to face. What do you say about that?
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to be scared of the dark when I was a little girl. I used to hate it. I absolutely hated it. And when I was sitting for physical mediumship up in our loft, like I sit downstairs now, but when I was sitting up in the loft, it must have been about a year and a half ago, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I used to be frightened to sit for physical because I was so frightened of the dark. But
Mhm,
that was
mhm.
part of my healing. It was nothing
Yeah,
to do with the spirit world, it was to do with
yeah,
me. And now I don't have any problem with it. And I think we can bring our own, like you're saying,
yeah.
our own childhood fears, our own traumas from our lives, so many factors. And it's the unknown, isn't it? You know?
Exactly. That's the key.
Mm.
That's the big word right there, the unknown. The things that we're
Yeah.
afraid of are the things we don't understand.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when it comes to other mediums that like to share their wisdom, not all mediums are created equal, and not all mediums are on the same plane. So I'm just gonna say it that way. We all
I'm
have
definitely not on the
you.
I'm a nutter, I am. I'm mad, crazy woman. Sorry.
But I do believe that when we go to a specific person, there's usually a reason for that. So I never question. Like when I first started my path, funny that you mentioned that too, because I thought of this morning. When I started my path, I had a teacher who I thought was amazing. It's still amazing, but I thought was more amazing than this person really was. And I don't regret the experience that I had because it taught me a lot about myself. And one of the biggest things was to question why. Why are you saying that? How come you're acting that way? Is this the truth? Is there something else out there that could be better or different? And so it's about learning from that person, but yet you still have control over your life and you still have to make decisions that's right for you. So just because somebody tells you there's boogeyman in your closet does not mean that there's actually boogeyman in your closet. It's just their belief that there's boogeyman in your closet, which is so funny what you said, Janine. When I first started this path, I had a friend that I used to joke with where I'd be like, okay, you go chase the ghosts. I'm going to go hide in the closet. I'm not doing mediumship. I want nothing to do with ghosts. They scare the shit out of me and I'm not going to do it. So I definitely started with that belief system of boogeyman in the closet. Yeah. And now I'm like, but if something like last night, I was actually in trance. Right before trance, there was something in my bathroom that dropped. Nobody's in the bathroom. Nobody's around. And I was like, before I would have ran. And this time I was like, no, I got to go see what it was.
Yeah.
What is Spirit doing?
What are they up to?
I jumped though. I did jump.
It's the interpretation, isn't it? I mean, I keep telling this story to everybody I speak to sometimes, but I think it comes from Scott Milligan. It's Scott Milligan, a physical medium, but this is one of his stories that I listened to and it made me chuckle. It was years ago. This lady in a house was having paranormal problems and the spirit world would be opening and shutting all the drawers and the cupboards in their kitchen. And they said, oh my God, we got something really bad in the house. It's really negative and all this. Anyway, apparently a medium went over. She was really well known. Went in there and said, oh, there's a little child in the house. And she said, oh, up in the cupboard, there's some weed stashed away in a tin. And the little boy in spirit was trying to tell the mother that her son was taking weed by opening and shutting the cupboard doors in the kitchen. So it was creating poltergeist activity. But they immediately thought it was negative. But once the medium came in and explained, actually, they're just trying to help you. It's our interpretation again. It did make me laugh. And I always bring that up when people say something scary's happened.
Yeah. There's always a reason. Yeah, there's always a reason. You got to find the why. That's been my biggest thing in life, and why I tell what I tell other people when I work with them. It's find the why. When you find the why, you get the answer. There's always a reason for something, especially spirit. I just had a conversation with someone yesterday about how spirit wasn't that intelligent. I'm like, are you kidding me? Spirit is so intelligent. They know how to work with us individually and as a collective. They're just so intelligent.
Yeah, they know exactly. Yeah. They know exactly what they're doing. How could we be scared of spirit? They're so beautiful. So apart from when they manifest in the room in the middle of the night, you think, oh, can you do that in the daylight? That would be nicer. But it's nothing to be scared of. It's our interpretation again to immediately react and think, let's jump out of bed and scream. But
exactly. I love it.
They try and work with us, don't they?
Yes. And we're the ones that fight them. And they're patient about it. They are patient.
Yeah. I can remember a lady once in spirit. I was in bed and I woke up 3 o'clock in the morning and I found myself sat up in bed. So I'd obviously been manipulated by spirit to sit up in bed because I was entranced in some form. I knew that for a fact. And I opened my eyes and thought, oh, what am I doing sat up? And this woman in spirit walked straight through my dressing table and stared at me. And I screamed the house down. But ironically enough, she never walked through the dressing table again because she was more scared of me than I was her. And she was just coming to help me and give me some healing. And I screamed her out of the house. Do you know what I mean? So
I had a similar situation like that. Very similar. Not quite walking through something, but spirit had come and manifested and I saw spirit. And I was like, I was seriously, I would have levitated out of the way because I was so scared. I was like, I jumped about a mile high and still to this I've asked, okay, come back. Nope, not happening. Because, because I was scared. I was afraid. I've had that happen before. But now I feel like
come back since.
Well, I feel like now I have a different relationship with spirits. At that time, it was their way of showing me that they were there and wake me up.
Yeah,
Now I have a relationship with spirit, so I don't need that per se.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
not really still a big fan of that. Although, all of us get that peripheral vision stuff, and you're like, what? And then
yeah,
that person is there because you've looked. But it's the other part of it is your brain is not ready to really see them, because if your reality is, if we were to shift our view or shift our belief system, we could see all spirits around us,
yeah,
but we don't as
exactly.
a human. We don't. We're afraid to,
Yeah,
or we're not trained to.
it's
Could
weird.
you
I mean,
imagine?
yeah, do you know? I mean, I know that when I'm outside and I look outside and I'm
Uh-huh.
just looking outside, I can see the shadows of spirit walking around, if
Uh-huh.
that sort of makes
Uh-huh.
any sense, and lots of
Uh-huh.
orbs and shadows, and I see
Yeah.
flashes of light, but they
Mm.
won't show themselves more than that with me at the moment because they know that I'll just scream. Just think, they don't want me to
I hear
scream.
you. I still will too. I'll still jump. I know I will. They're gradually bringing us into it.
Yeah, gradually. They might. Richard might show his left arm to me one day, and may gradually show his body to me. But I hope one day, when I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing, is we have to be ready, and it may not be my thing for this lifetime to actually see spirit.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus, like, there's been times where I've seen this shape, the
yeah,
translucent shape of spirit. I have seen that,
yeah,
but to actually see spirit, I have not.
yeah,
Other than the shadows, like you said, like I was walking and I saw a shadow behind me of not me. I knew it wasn't
yeah,
me, and I was like,
yeah.
huh. Can
I
I
love
run?
seeing
Should
this.
I jump?
I love seeing the spiritual orbs because I can remember coming out of trance once back at one of the gatherings, and when I opened my eyes, there was five orbs. They looked like little silver orbs, and they were going
Mhm.
round and round in circles, and I had to keep turning my head to look at them. And they showed themselves blending with me for the first time in
Aw,
years, and all I saw is their beautiful light, and they would go like with
aw,
intelligence moving around, but they only let me see them in that energy because they know that I just like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. I feel like Christmas has come early, so they know that I won't freak out. And I think the spirit world show us in a way that we're not scared of them, isn't it? Because they don't
right.
want to hurt us or scare us off, or because we can shut down if we
Yeah,
got
we
really
can.
scared, we could shut
Yeah.
ourselves down. So it's
Mhm.
important. They don't want us to do that, do they? So,
Exactly. They work too hard to get us where we're at than to shut us
yeah,
down. You know, I
if you're too scared to channel because we've, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. I realized that I've never seen an orb with my eyes. I've only seen orbs with a camera.
Oh my god, wait until you see them with your eyes. They're so
That's
beautiful.
what I'm working on right now, is being able to see
So
orbs
beautiful.
without a
They just
camera.
float in. They sort of come in. The
Yeah,
only way I can describe it, I don't know, loads of mediums see orbs. I'm
yeah,
sure everybody on here, most of some of the mediums have, but it's like looking at a star in the sky, but it's
uh-huh,
moving with intelligence and it's coming
yeah,
round and
yeah.
interacting with you. It's really special. If I lost everything in my whole life, that to me would be enough.
I hear
It's
you.
this
And I
beautiful
do,
thing.
Sharon, I love seeing spirit faces all over. You can see them like in the
Yeah,
clouds or in buildings
yeah.
or in trees. I love it when I look out and you can see a tree and it looks like a face.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly. They
wow,
come through, don't they? Like Sharon
absolutely.
sees them everywhere in people's
Mhm. I love
clothes and
that.
in behind them. I mean, it's an
Uh-huh.
amazing gift, isn't it?
And it's always just an awareness. It's just that awareness of, and which almost is like the soft focus. Like, you're not looking at the tree, you're just kind of gazing at the tree or the
Yeah,
whatever. And that's when you start seeing, like, oh man, I've seen clouds to me are the most amazing signals or signs. Like,
yeah,
I've even had things like, what should I do about? And then at some like moments later, when I was a runner, this used to happen a lot, and I would see the shape of a cloud happen to the answer to my question. I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
And they
love
give you
it.
the answer, don't
Yeah, they
they?
give me
We've
an
just got to
answer to it.
believe it, haven't we? And trust it.
And look for it. You have to believe it, trust it, and look for it. Be aware of it.
That's it. That's
So,
it, isn't it?
shall we?
Oh,
Shall
right.
we?
Okay, then. Yes. We'll keep talking for hours. We'll
Okay.
still be talking.
I know, right? I'm going to mute myself so I don't bother you.
Oh, I just get myself comfortable. I've got everything propping me up here. I have. Okay. Should I do a little opening prayer, set the
Oh,
intent?
yes,
Or
yes, 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 yes. I
okay,
meant to
may
ask you
we
that earlier.
invite my beautiful trance guides and the inspirers to come into this energy and to bring their words and thoughts and wisdom into my vibration. I welcome my trance team to come and blend and merge with me, to entrance me to wherever I need to be. I come with no expectation, but only gratitude and love to be with the spirit world. And so it is. And now my legs are going numb. Hang on a minute. It's such a squeeze in here. Sometimes I'm sure I'm getting bigger or the tent's getting smaller. Okay. Sorry. You get
Get
used to
my
my
ass
sense of
out the
humour.
door. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, I'll see you in about 5 minutes. If anybody knows, well, everybody knows it takes me about 5 minutes, doesn't it? And then the spirit world will come through. Okay, see you shortly. Good afternoon, my dear.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for being with us today.
Yes, and I'm going to say that I was listening to your conversation earlier, and Janine has fallen asleep. So,
We were speaking about falling asleep in our different states of being.
yes, well, we are always listening to your conversations, my dear, and we do overhear it, and we sort of stand in the background and have a little chuckle to ourselves and watch you learn your lessons, don't we?
Absolutely. Richard, I have a feeling that you have a message for us that you wanted to share today. And I know that there's a lot going on in our world. What would you like to tell people about what's happening these days?
We always have a little message for you, my dear. We like to interact as well and come through and talk. But we want to come through a little bit more today. We're not going to shove Richard out of the way, my dear, but he's giving us a little bit of an opportunity to develop too. But Janine won't be expecting that because she says, well, I want Richard to talk all the time. I feel comfortable. But we want to come through a little bit more. But we want to say to you about your path, the direction that many of you will want to go forward on, your expectation of where you're going to be going. Many of you will have the challenges. Of course you will. And they will come in a place where you'll not be expecting it. And you say, well, it's taken me off course, Ethel. I don't know where to go now. My path has gone the opposite direction. Or it's gone in a direction behind you from a place that you've been before. And you say, well, this isn't moving forward particularly well. But it is all part of your path to go off course, you see. It's a little bit like the world, isn't it? It's not all straight and in that straight line, is it? It all goes off in different directions. What you've got to do is come into that little bit more of a present energy, isn't it? Come into that moment and try to focus on the here and now. We try to persuade Janine to do this, but she's not always willing to listen to us. She doesn't believe a word we say sometimes. She says, it's all in my head, Ethel. It can't be the spirit world. But we try to come through a little bit more stronger. But when you're going off course, just try to remember it's part of your path. It's part of your vibration to go off course a little bit, to have a little lesson, you see. You've all got to make mistakes. You can't sit in a classroom when you're a child and not make mistakes. You're all going to make errors along the way. You're going to go off course. So you've got to allow yourself to go off course a little bit. And you're going to think to yourself, well, Ethel, why would I want to go off course? I want to get back on that path again. But you've got to accept what is happening in your life now. Those lessons there are sent to you for you to experience. So if you go off course, just allow it to happen. Don't sort of resist against it and say, well, I'm not going to do that. Just accept it, let the energy come in and learn from that energy. You see what I mean? Once you do that, you won't have such a high expectation of where you're all going to go. Now, I bet you're all sitting there going, all right, Ethel, easier said than done. But I'm quite straight to the point. But you've got to allow your path to go exactly where it needs to be. If it feels a little bit uncomfortable, just sit in there for a little while and try to understand what is happening to you. Because it is there to help you heal, isn't it, my love? You see?
I do. And that's very important information. How do we keep ourselves from getting caught up in the frustration or fear about being on the wrong path?
Well, if you're stuck there and you don't like it very much, you've got to make yourself more comfortable, isn't it? It's like becoming uncomfortable to become comfortable, isn't it? You've got to get used to the energy, the different vibration. Because when those emotional issues come forward, they're there to help you learn those lessons. those lessons aren't going to feel very comfortable. It's a little bit like taking your medicine, isn't it, my dear? You see? You
Yes,
take your medicine, you think, well, that tastes awful. I don't want to swallow that full. Why would I want that? All of you as little children would have had your medicine from your mum and dad, and you didn't want to take it, but it would make you better, wouldn't it? You see, you come here to have that sort of experience, haven't you? And come forward to experience that. All you've got to do is swallow the medicine temporarily and come out the other side and come out a much better person and stronger, isn't it?
Yes, I love that. But the question I would have with that is, when we're on a path that seems to be off of our what we think is our path, how do we trust that we're going to get back on the right path?
Well, of course, I'm going to interfere a little bit there and come forward a little bit. We're not all squabbling in the background here, but the question is to that you are asking again, my dear, if you repeat it.
So sometimes we have to trust that we're going on a path that we may not feel is the right path, and we have to go through that experience. How do we know how to get back to the path that we're supposed to be on?
Well, I'm going to bring you a little bit more of a way of thinking about it, but I don't want to send you all to sleep, of course, and therefore is learning a little bit more to come through Janine today a little bit, and if we can get Janine to let go a little bit more. But you imagine Mother Earth. She is that round circle that you see in the universe, don't you? She has her imperfections, you see what I mean? She has many of her storms and weather systems, and you have the volcanoes, don't you? The eruptions. The earth is twisting and changing all the time through many millennia and many millions of years, isn't it, my dear? So it is constantly changing, as Ethel was explaining about the path, wasn't she? She comes through and she says to you, well, you know, you have to allow to go off course. Well, Mother Earth is doing this all the time. She's not all in one straight line, is she? She's not all round how you perceive her in the universe, how your physical eyes see her. You see what I mean? She is changing and evolving. She is in a totally different vibration. She allows the changing to continue. So I'll give you another example. Mother Earth doesn't look the same as what it did a million years ago, does it? You've all come here to Mother Earth as I did once here before when I was here alive. And you make the changes to Mother Earth, don't you? You create your woodlands and forests, you create your houses, your factories, places of employment, cars. Many technology has changed the way the pattern and the earth has responded to that vibration. It has adapted to that vibration, hasn't it? The changes, I'm going to say to you, my dear. It's just a little bit like the path, isn't it? It is constantly changing like Mother Earth. It would be, I would say, physically impossible for you to stay in the same vibration. It's a little bit like the star in the sky, isn't it? It was once a planet, it is now a star. It had to explode and die away into the universe to come that beautiful star. Is a little bit like yourself, isn't it, my dear? Coming into that beautiful light. You have to die away the old, isn't it? The old vibration, much of the healing and vibration that is needed to be done in this earthly world for all of you and yourself, my dear. I would say that constant changing, isn't it? You see what I mean?
Yes, I do. That makes perfect sense. And trust and faith seems like it's the answer
Yes,
to
of
that.
course.
My question would be, as you probably, as you know, what's happening in our world today is a lot of friction, and what Janine and I were talking about just being loving and kind to each other. Are we going to be able to get our societies back to having that care for each other?
Well, of course, you know, that as Janine has said earlier, you know, in many forms of how you connect for one another, isn't it? You talk about the spirit, But you all sort of see each other on the physical level, don't you? You see the emotions on the physical realm, how you're all sort of, I'm going to say, responding to one another in that vibration. So, of course, we always teach Janine and many others to start to see it on a spiritual perspective, I'm going to say. But of course, you're all interacting with one another. You're seeing each other's energy and vibration on that physical level. But of course, the vibration, the spirit within yourself is far expanding your knowledge that you are in the physical realm. And you're sort of trying to understand your own spirit, aren't you? You're all trying to understand one another, understand what your healing is and why you're all connected to one another. But what you must understand is as you move on this earth plane and you start to heal, you'll go through many healing experiences and you will start to learn from them. But what I'm going to say to you is a little bit like the trees and the flowers, isn't it, on Mother Earth? They sort of go away in the winter and come back in the spring, don't they? They come back stronger. And they go away into that dormant stage. They go away to sort of have a little bit of growth. But that is what I would say that is happening in your world at the moment. We're all trying to encourage you from spirit side to go away and start that little bit of healing. Once you do that, you will start to understand, I would say, one another a little bit better, isn't it, from that vibration.
Yeah, that's very important and something we need. But the question I have is when we're doing the healing, which is something that's really important, as you said, how do we stay out of that fear of what's happening around us with the hate and the bickering and the fighting that seems to be going on with people?
Well, I'm going to explain what is actually happening there. As you know, and Janine will know, many of you have past life experiences, don't you? And you're all sort of interconnected on that soul level as well, as you all understand. So some of that is coming into play too, with your bickering and arguing, isn't it? Some of those discrepancies and healing is coming into that vibration and your earthly, I would say, path now that you're experiencing. So you all interconnect and connect with one another, I would say. So it sort of brings out the fear, doesn't it? So even I'm going to say, if you meet somebody that you have never met before and you're just in a glancing view from them, or you meet them in the street, or you've met them once or twice before and you don't quite get along with them, you are still meant to meet that person, aren't you? You have still decided to meet that person in this realm of existence now, to have that learning experience. But how do you get rid of the fear? Well, you see, fear comes from a vibration of consciousness, isn't it? It is many forms of consciousness described into your mind from a child when you are little, say imprinted through your parents or your family and through those many lifetimes. And when that fear comes into your physical reality, it sort of manifests into an energy, doesn't it? And it creates another, I'm going to say, another form of consciousness, isn't it? You're creating that reality into your space. So I'm going to talk about the imagination, you see. How do you think we connect to you? Through the imagination, don't we? You see, you have the consciousness, the imagination, the creative side of you. So we sort of come into your auric layers, we come into your spirit, which is multifaceted, and into your soul. And we will connect, I would say, to that vibration. So we connect to you. It's a little bit like the sounding board, isn't it? The imagination. So once the imagination is connected, we connect to you too. But it's the same thing also with fear. Your imagination gets into play and you create that reality into your space. And the imagination is very, very strong. So for another example, I am in spirit, we all are. Ethel and Alice and ourselves, all as one consciousness, and we create what we want to see and experience within the spirit, things we may have enjoyed from other lifetimes, things that we want to experience and enjoy. But of course, if you're doing the same thing in the physical reality, you're creating that into your reality too. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we want you to do is start creating the positivity, isn't it? Bringing the light in, and that positivity to create that positive intent, isn't it? That light and vibration once again, to create that vibration. And you're going to say, well, Richard, how do you get rid of the fear? Because I'm still in that fear place. But you can create anything you want. For example, if you're going through a negative situation and you're going through that vibration and it creates fear within your vibration, you can change that, you see. We come into Janine's energy and we create a vibration. We can create anything we want through that trance state, that greater communication to come and talk to you, my dear, you see. So you're able to create and change your vibration if only you believed in your own imagination, because that imagination is part of the facets, your spirit, your soul, and vibration. That facet of your soul is part of your imagination. It is part of all those past lives, past memories, past thoughts. So what we want you to do is work with your own spirit, isn't it, my dear? It's a little bit like connecting to your spirit and understanding what it is needing. It can help you create that vibration, my dear. It's a little bit complicated, but I try to make it as easy as possible, my love.
That brings up a good question that somebody had asked earlier about being afraid to go into trance, and should we fear it? And it feels to me like that answer also answers that question as well, correct? About the fear and creating the more positive imagination.
Oh, yes, of course, because many of you think, and I know certainly Janine does, and I keep trying to tell her that her imagination is real. It is real as we are coming into her vibration. It's as real as you sat in a room, my dear, you see. The imagination is part of your spirit. It is that facet of your soul that is multidimensional. It is within the spirit, because of course you are in spirit already. You are here living, of course. Your soul and consciousness is everywhere. It is within the universe. It is within all of you. You're all connected as one energy. So that imagination is part of that consciousness and part of your spirit. If you were to trust the spirit, my dear, the imagination, you will start to believe, and you will start to believe that you can create what you want into your reality. Because, for example, if we didn't believe in ourselves, we wouldn't be able to communicate through Janine, you see. We have to believe in ourselves within the spirit. We have to heal too. And we need you to heal too and understand and trust yourselves. It is then that our consciousness and yours, us from the spirit, you from the physical, will come together, my dear.
That's beautiful. The one of the questions that I think about as you were speaking is about one of the things that people fear the most, especially when they're doing spiritual work, is the evil side or the dark energies or energies taking over them. How do we get through that and not fear that?
Well, I know that the girls want to speak about it, but I'll continue for a little bit longer with this. But you understand negative energy, as Janine has explained before, her point of view on this, isn't it? She's explained to you about, I would say, the intent, isn't it? Creating into the reality, as we've talked about the imagination. So I'm going to talk about the energies and I would say spirit that you are, I would say, referred to as being a little bit negative or a little bit naughty or deceitful maybe. What you've got to understand is many of the spiritual beings have come from a place, I'm going to say, of healing, just like you have, isn't it? There's a little bit of frustration there with them. So they sort of come across in that negative vibration. But at the end of the day, it is all to do with the healing, isn't it? The healing that is required for them to process and work through within the spirit, because we've had to do that too. But what I want to explain to you, I'm going to say there are many dimensions, many forms of consciousness broken into millions and trillions of levels of light and vibration, okay? But I'm going to take 2 levels of consciousness, 2 forms of light into your vibration for you to understand now, okay? So you have the spirit realm. You have somebody on the spirit side of life that I'm going to say that may have had a traumatic experience, and there is you, my dear Joanne, on the other side. So I'm going to say you have an experience with this, I would say, energy and vibration. He comes towards you and connects to you. But what happens is you've got the layers of light and consciousness, the dimensions, we're going to say portals of energy and portals, entrance points that I want to say to you that you all understand. So he's on the other side trying to communicate with you. And he's got all his trauma there, and he's sending those shock waves of energy through those vibrational light and sound. By the time it reaches those 4 fields of energy, forcing its way through that gravity, through Mother Earth. So imagine it, all that energy has got to reach you to where you are on Mother Earth, and your energy field and all those portals of vibrational energy. By the time the information gets there from spirit, it is changed. It is manifested within the consciousness. All that consciousness within space and time, it is altered and changed. So you perceive the information through as a negative vibration. I want to bring this through also for Janine to have her a little bit of a greater understanding. So that energy reaches you in a negative form. So then your spirit is in the spirit too, my dear, you see. It is communicating with that entity or energy, but you are not aware of it because you are in the physical realm, but you are communicating with that spiritual being on that level of consciousness too. But I won't talk about that little bit there because we could be here for a long time tonight. So we're going to talk about you, Joanne. Your response is to be scared, isn't it? In a place of fear. So your emotions come into that play, your fear, your emotions from many past lives, through your own spirit and your own healing and fear there too, and the fear that you hold in your life now, my dear. And it clashes with that vibration and that consciousness. Your consciousness comes and collides with that energy, with the consciousness of that spiritual being. And it all gets a little bit mumble jumbled up into one vibration, I'm going to say. All that sound, frequency and energy. The language has changed. So you understand hello, don't you, my dear? The spirit energy is saying hello to you. But every word that that spiritual being is trying to communicate to you has altered and changed through the vibration of sound, and it sounds different to you. And you've changed the frequency of energy too, through the vibration of your own fear. So it all gets mumbled jumbled again. I'll try not to repeat because Janine's trying to overhear this conversation, but I will get her to step aside. So what you perceive and see are entirely 2 different things. Do you see what I mean? It's like trying to communicate with a friend on a negative vibration, but you're trying to hear them over a telephone call that has got a bad signal. That is what I want to say to you, my dear. So that phone signal is being distorted. So the only way that we can get you to receive that telephone call, I want to say, is for you to listen to your own spirit. I talk about this at great length, but I will try not to talk for too long. We get quite excited when we get the opportunity. But if you start to listen to your spirit, it will bring that communication, that phone wire of communication from the spiritual being that you are perceiving as negative, and bring you the correct information. But we need you yet again to do the healing, isn't it? You see, to receive the correct information. And apologies for the long-winded communication, I'm going to say.
Well, I think that that's a really important topic because one of the first things that I hear from people when I'm working with them or talking with them is the fear of evil, the fear of dark spirits. So that's really helpful to know. But what would be some of the ways of healing to be able to change that vibration? And when you're talking about having that communication with our spirit, what do you mean by that? I guess is what I'm asking. How do we change it? And what do you mean by that?
You all want to heal, don't you? As
Mhm.
Janine does, and the more that you do it, I would say the stronger communication, isn't it? For us to, I would say, come closer to you. So you start to hear us, don't you? Because you are listening to your own spirit and trusting it, I'm going to say, and understanding it, isn't it? What will happen is when you start to heal, I would say the communication, that phone wire comes clearer, isn't it? It's like fixing a fault, isn't it? As you have your faults, don't you, in the human world with your electronics, you are fixing that connection. It is a little bit like the higher self, isn't it? The higher self, as you all know, is part of your spirit. It is part of that facet. Once you trust the information from your higher self, that spiritual side, and you're going to say, well, Richard, that's easier said than done. It is to start to trust yourself and that communication that your spirit brings you, and then you will start to overcome many of your fears, won't you? It's like diverting yourself a little bit. You've got your logical mind, haven't you? And you listen to the logical mind and you say, well, I'm listening to that. But now I need to listen to the spiritual side, my higher self. I need to listen to that first, you see? So it's like rewiring your brain. We're trying to get and teach you. We won't succeed all the time, of course. Is trying to get you to rewire your mind to listen to your spirit first before you listen to your mind. Then the mind, I would say, will be very open to receive that message, and you will start to trust it. That is when the fear will start to dissipate. You will start to look at one another on, I would say, a different vibration, because every single bit of information that you receive from yourself, you will trust 100%, and there will be no place of fear ever again. Could you imagine a world like this? But I don't think that we're going to succeed right at the moment with all of you in that vibration. But yes, it would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
It absolutely would be wonderful. But the question I have is, I'm sorry, Ethel, would you like to speak?
No, I am listening, my dear.
Okay. The question I have is when you're in that fear and you have this dialogue going, how do you, when you're in that beginning stage, how do you know when you're listening to your spirit versus listening to your egoic mind? How do you separate and learn to trust the spirit side that's coming through?
Well, I'm going to make that very easy for you. Well, I would as easy as I can possibly make it, my dear. Is it the heart, isn't it, my love? You see, we get you to all open the heart energy. We get you to connect on the heart vibration. The heart is part of your, I would say, your spiritual side, isn't it? When we all get you to work from that heart space. Now, the reason why that I bring that heart energy up is that I know that many of you will connect to that straight away. That once you come into that heart space, we talk about this quite a lot, is going on the feelings, the emotions, the sensing within your vibration. Because of course you're all in the physical body and you're looking to see, aren't you, with the physical eyes, and you're not going on your senses so much as you should do. Well, as not as much as we'd like you to, I'm going to say. We'd like you to sense more. Once you start to work with the heart more and start sensing your environment and vibration around you rather than what the mind is doing, you will be then listening to the spirit. It's a little bit like walking around unable to see what you're doing, and you will be living, I would say, just living on the senses and vibrations instead. And that is where that you will connect to your own spirit and receive those answers, my love.
Oh, thank you, Richard. That was very helpful. There was one question about if you have brain surgery, Does that alter your brain or change your connection to your spirit or even the spiritual world?
Well, of course, we'll talk about this a little bit more for you. I'll try not to make it too complicated because Janine has no idea what I'm going to say. So I will try to make it as easy as possible. What you've got to understand with the brain, it is all communicating, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Those vibrations, those cells, those information, a little bit like wiring, is all communicating, is all connecting, I'm going to say, with the internal organs, your eyes, your everything that is connected to you, that all of you will understand and know. So all those information and shock waves and messages you receive. So when the brain is altered or changed, you talk about brain surgery, don't you? So it is altered and changed the vibration.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens then in that greater communication? Well, your spirit is part of that highway of energy and light and communication within your brain too. So what I'm going to describe to you as well is when your brain is functioning normally and working within that vibration, your spirit is communicating with your brain too, isn't it? You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It is always communicating. This is what I'm trying to describe to you all now today, is that if you go on the senses alone, you will receive the messages from your own spirit, yes, and you will receive that healing and empowerment and knowledge and the communication that you want. So the brain waves are all communicating in your physical mind, the things that you understand in your physical reality. But with brain surgery, this doesn't really affect the brain too badly, because what I'm going to say is that the spirit is connected to the brain. So what happens is the brain is always desperately trying to communicate, bringing all those signals through the brain and vibration to try and get your brain to start listening to your own spirit. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So in these situations, the spirit will come through to assist even more into that vibration to help the healing process, I would say, through any type of surgery that is happening within this vibration. So that comes into play too. So you must trust your own spirit, because that is the greater highway, I would say, of that communication of your brain waves. It's like having a third brain, isn't it? You understand the stomach being the second brain, don't you? And I'm going to say that the spirit is the third brain too as well. So they're all interconnected. But how does the brain actually heal within that vibration after surgery? Well, the cells in the brain are also part, I was going to part of your sort of, you understand the auric field, don't you? Your facets, part of your soul, come into play and blend within your auric field as well as your guides. Now that auric field will send shock waves of energy and light through your whole physical form, your body, your mind and vibration, and your brain too, you see? So when there is injury there, the soul will come into play to help that healing, and the auric field will be affected by that, say, change in the mind and vibration through surgery. And that will start to change. And what happens then, you say, it's a little bit complicated, but one day I'll be able to get Janine to step back further. The auric field will start to be stimulated by those brainwave changes. The auric field will change, the vibration will change, the spirit will change in the way that I would say the connection that is coming through from your own spirit. And what happens is everything in that vibration of consciousness helps retrieve and heal those brain waves and those lights of communication. The cells in the brain, the right side, the left side, the frontal lobe and the back of the brain will start to receive that information from your light waves of communication within your auric field. And the auric field will adjust those sound waves of communication within the brain. So they sort of come all together and interlink and change the vibration and the communication to adjust you to the right vibration for the greater communication. But I really want to stop there, but I'm not sure Janine is willing to step back any further. She may not believe a word that I'm saying.
I don't know why my thing is dinging, but that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because it shows the intelligence of spirit, but it also is the magnificence of the creation that we all are. How amazing that is.
Of course, Janine has gone to sleep now, so I'll have to continue just a little bit more, my dear. But
Okay.
the center of the brain is a little bit like the heart energy, isn't it? The center of the brain controls all the communication going from the right to the left side, behind and the front. And that communication, you understand the crown chakra, don't you? You see? Your higher self, the spiritual realm, all comes and communicates from the above. I'm going to say that you understand it. That's your spirit and the spiritual realm. They are coming communicating through those sound waves too. So when there's, I would say, a little change in the brain and little changes through those surgery procedures, the communication is changed, the vibration is changed, isn't it, to heighten the communication so that I would say the patient is able to receive communication through their own thoughts better. It all comes into play, doesn't it? It is the consciousness creating its own reality, isn't it? Its vibration. The consciousness is all coming into that too, but we will talk about that another time, my dear.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That was really great information. Somebody was asking about, we have our guides, our team. I call them my team. How important is it, and how do we connect with our team to have that kind of relationship where we're having that trust for them to guide us and for the teaching that they do with us?
What you're saying is, I am going from one subject to the other, aren't
Yes,
I?
we are.
It is the same as a little bit like the subject we've just spoke about, isn't it? The mind receiving the communication from your higher self and spirit, altering the brain waves and vibration. You see, it can all be altered and created and manipulated with. So, of course, when we want to communicate with you, we come into those auric layers, we stimulate it, we lower the vibration, we adjust, I would say, our light frequency, the sound and speed of gravity. It all comes into play as we come into that greater communication. And so I would say, if, for instance, if you're going through emotional trauma at the time, we will alter the brain waves and communication within your mind, so you receive that communication within those brain waves connected to your mind. It's a little bit like the surgery before, isn't it? We just alter the communication and vibration, so it is easier for, I would say, the person to receive, isn't it? So when you want that stronger link, I'm going to come into somebody that is just doing normal mediumship and hasn't had surgery on the mind or any interferences. We will still do exactly the same, you see. We will just stimulate the energy, the vibration, the light, everything that is interconnected, and we will connect to your spirit too, because your spirit is already up there with us having a chat, isn't it? So we will sometimes send a message to your spirit for you to receive the messages. So it is that telephone wire again, isn't it? The three-way conversation. That is how we are always communicating to you. That is why it doesn't matter what is wrong with you in the psychological mind, what is going on psychologically, whether it is physical or emotional, we will still get that message to you, because your spirit is in that multifaceted energy, isn't it? It is all over the place within space and time and spirit. You have millions and trillions of cells and consciousness and spirit. We communicate with all of it, and then we send those messages down for you to communicate with the self. Every time that you get a loved one from I say a message from a loved one, you see, They are coming in, they are communicating with your spirit to tell you the information so you receive to the higher self. So don't assume that you are not getting a spiritual message, because we have to bring your spirit into play for that greater communication, my dear. I hope that's covered it a little bit more for all areas.
I hope so as well. But you brought up an interesting point. So if you have someone who has a psychological issue in this world during their lifetime right now, they're still being communicated to, messages given to, and worked with by their team to finish their expression in this lifetime, learning the lessons.
Again, I'm using Janine's ears here, so you
Well, I'm thinking about people that come into this lifetime with some kind of psychological problem, whatever it is, mental illness or whatever they're dealing with, which I would think would be difficult for them to get whatever their lesson in this life would be. So you're saying that even under those circumstances, that their spiritual team can come through and still help them along their path.
Yes, of course. And each and every one of you are mediums. You see, you are all spirit, aren't you? It would be impossible for everyone not to be spirit, because you are all here communicating in this space and time. Is that some of you choose not to work with spirit in this lifetime. You see, you make the choices and decisions. So it doesn't matter what is going on in the mind for the individual, whether it be psychological or depression or whatever. I would say mental illness or whatever vibration is coming into play. If that individual is willing, and I would say open, to receive in the lifetime that they are set in this lifetime and want to receive, they will receive the message from spirit, because they already are in spirit, aren't they? That's part of their facet and consciousness is there within the spiritual realm. It is whether that you want to communicate, isn't it? It is a decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, I would say, free will, I'm going to say to you all. You all have that free will to make your choices and decisions, my dear.
I love that. It gives people hope because a lot of people are dealing with family members, friends, loved ones that are dealing with mental illness. So it really does encourage people that there is a reason for their path as well.
Yes, of course. And it all comes back to the mind again, isn't it? We just alter the vibration, you see. We can stimulate and work with every single individual on the planet if they are open and willing to communicate with us. We just change the vibration, because each of you are vibrating at a different vibration and energy. You all have different, I would say, healing to do and vibration. We just adjust ourselves to you within that energy, my dear.
It's interesting that you've used the words "if they're willing." Are there some people that come here and that aren't willing to learn their lessons in this lifetime?
I would say that they are most definitely willing within the spirit, but when they come here, they have to try to understand that they were willing from spirit side to do it. It is whether they're willing to hear that in, I would say, this lifetime. It is all to do with, I would say, listening to the spirit again, isn't it, my dear?
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is when you're a human in the human form and you're not willing, is it a choice that you're not willing to do that? Or is it a life path that you're not willing to listen to your spirit? Or is it just you're not hearing the communication correctly?
Well, I've decided to come through just a little bit, my dear. It is Alice.
Thank you,
Well, if
Alice.
I was to put you in a classroom, my dear,
Mhm.
and you start to learn, I know Richard can get a little bit complicated for Janine, I'm going to say, because she starts to worry and thinks, oh God, I'm getting in the way. So I'm going to come through in a slightly different energy. So you all go to school, don't you? And it's a choice of willingness to learn, isn't it? Some may go to school and they say, well, I'm really excited to do this and I'm going to get my pens and paper out and I'm going to educate myself. And some come to the earthly plane and they're not quite ready. And they sort of rush in and say, well, I'm going to come back to have my earthly experience. And when they get here, it is quite difficult for them to learn. But sometimes in the spirit, there is much healing to be done.
on spirit side, because you're all healing here too, and we have to heal there also in spirit. And in the spirit as well, it's been never mentioned before, so I hope I don't put my foot in it with Janine afterwards when you tell her what I have just said. The spirit realm have free will too, you see. They have free will to make their choices and decisions within the spirit, just like you do. And sometimes they will rush back in eagerness, in great anticipation, to want to learn. And sometimes it is not quite the right time, but they come back to have that earthly experience. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So they have to go through that, I would say, learning. And they will have to come back for many, I would say, earthly experiences to learn that vibration and work through it. That is why sometimes you sort of shake your heads, don't you all? And you say, well, my family is not learning. My friends are not learning. Why aren't they learning? Why aren't they understanding? Because when they came back here, they weren't quite ready, you see? The free will continues within the spirit. This is why that sometimes you get many spiritual beings that refuse to cross over, you see? They have free will to do as they choose, and they sort of get a little bit stubborn and say, well, I actually want to stay here in the earthly realm. And they don't realize that they have to move on. But we can't force them either. We sort of have to persuade them a little bit and coax them forward and say, well, okay, it is time to come to spirit and have another lesson here. You see, the great earthly school that you are all in, we have a school too in spirit. We're all learning up there. Now, I know some of you will say, well, how can that all be possibly happening? But we all have free will too, and those experiences to learn. And many of the lifetimes that you do come back is you go over and over them, don't you? It is because that you have not learnt yet, that maybe the time isn't right to go back and learn. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. There's a lot of people that say that spirits don't get stuck between worlds. And I'm hearing you say that we actually can get stuck between worlds.
Yes, of course. They get a little bit stuck between levels of consciousness because I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to hand it over to Richard now, if you don't mind. But Janine won't let go too much.
Yes, the levels of consciousness. So you see, it is getting more complicated here for Janine here to step back. But of course, you have you're in that transition of going to the spirit realm, aren't you? So you have your levels of consciousness here, don't you, in the physical. And you also have the facet side of you, your spiritual side on the other side too, which is consciousness too within the spirit. And you're sort of making that transition to crossover, isn't it? But you don't quite want to go across. So all those levels of consciousness are all coming together, and that communication is coming together. So what happens is that your consciousness on the physical realm is still trying to control. Do you see what I mean? And I would say for many months now, we've been talking about the physical mind controlling. Do you see what I mean? So what happens is when you are in that transition, the physical mind is still trying to hang on. Do you see what I mean? So it makes the transition very difficult for some of the spiritual beings to cross over. It is a little bit like in that transition of trying to go across, but they're a little bit stubborn. Do you see what I mean?
That's very interesting. Okay. I learned something new. That's very interesting. I'm stuck on that one. I'm sorry. So when they're going through that transition where they're a little bit stubborn to go to the other side, they're not really earthbound. They're more still in the universal consciousness.
What tends to happen is I will have to develop with Janine a little bit more with this. I'm going to bring a little bit more of a description in as now she's let go a little bit more. Is what happens is when you are starting to cross over into the spirit realm from the physical, okay? So you've got your spirit side, you've got the facets of your soul over there, and the part of your spirit is trying to release from the physical realm now to cross over. All those levels of consciousness and vibration are trying to cross over loopholes of energy and vibration. They're all communicating, they're all communing and communicating like that phone wire, isn't it? And the signals get crossed, and like a little bit like cross wires. So of course you're on Mother Earth, aren't you? You're making that transition to spirit. You have the gravity of Mother Earth to contend with too. So your spirit, that part of your facet, your soul that is here in the physical, has got to break through all that vibrational energy. And your loved ones come forward to help that transition move across. But I would say the loved ones on the other side have to build up that vibration and energy to break down those molecules of energy, to slow down the vibration, to make those cells of consciousness and spirit, which is part of you, make that transition across. That is why that many times, my dear, that you will get many loved ones that will say, well, I'm seeing my loved ones in spirit more just before they cross, because they're in that transition, as Janine knows. You all know that, don't you? But what is happening is that point, my dear, is the loved ones are trying to break down that energy and to slow it down, to make that transition across to the spirit much easier for the loved one to go across into that vibration. But once they cross, sometimes they're wanting to come back straight away. Do you see what I mean? And it's just a refusal to cross over. So what happens then? They get stuck, don't they? And many mediums will help, I would say, to cross them over into that vibration. But all that energy, all those souls, those facets of that person's soul, scattered all within the universe and consciousness and time and many lifetimes, all stuck in that place within the physical form. But we need to change that vibration to get them to cross into that vibration. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is why the transition gets a little bit stuck. And of course, if they're not wanting to cross either, you see, we have to work on their healing too. It is all to do with the energy.
That's amazing. I've never heard that. So when somebody passes, is it, as a medium, is it possible for that medium to connect with someone's loved one as soon as they pass over? And if they're in that transition where they're stuck, can you connect with them?
Yes, of course. I will say to you, many of the mediums will be able to connect to that person's soul, even though they haven't quite transitioned, if you know what I mean. Because what I'm trying to say to you, my dear, is that you're all multifaceted. That is why the medium is able to connect to part of that person's soul before they've entirely crossed. But we have to communicate and help that soul heal. But of course, they have free will, don't they? So they sort of stay stuck in that one place and refusal to cross over. And what is happening is many levels of consciousness within their spirit is getting confused. The communication is confused. And that is why that we need to break down that and help them through their healing and that transition. Because you understand many of the mediums saying to some of the souls to cross over, don't you, that it is okay to do it. And they help them on this side through their healing, and we help on the other side too with the healing. So it helps that transition as well, doesn't it?
Yes, I see. That makes sense. So one of the last things I wanted to ask you is, we're going to go into a new year. And do you have any words of inspiration or hope or help as we go into the next year coming up?
Well, you can, it is the great expectation again, isn't it? It is the resistance and flow. You've got to allow things to flow exactly where they're meant to be, isn't it? If you come into that present moment, we can say it over and over again if you like, but we will always say the same thing, really, is to come into that moment. You see, if you're looking behind you or in the future, you're not sort of being in that space, are you? And looking in the right energy. For instance, when we're communicating with Janine or sending a message to her, or another medium to communicate to Janine, or a loved one that is trying to connect to Janine, we sort of expand the energy outwards. So expanding the energy outwards to the sides is much better for us for that greater communication. Do you see what I mean?
Mhm.
So if you're trying to go on your earthly path and you're too busy looking forward and behind you, you're not using the vibration of spirit to the way that it's used to being used. Because we're all spirit, we work on the vibration, expanding our light out to you so we can communicate to you. So if you're expanding your light out to sort of from your physical self and the facet part of you and your spirit, and just being in that moment, it's rather like if you're in that moment of time, you're just looking at the immediate surroundings, aren't you? You're expanding your awareness out to see what's within you and around you and within your own spirit. Then that greater communication happens. And it's sort of like it takes you on your path where you're meant to be. You see, if you're too busy running forward, you sort of meet an obstacle, don't you? You don't see what's right in front of you, what you're meant to see, where the answers lie. Do you see what I mean? The answers will lie within your auric layers, within those energy fields too, because all those meridians stored with lots of information from your spirit. So you have to come into that heart space, I'm going to say, as Richard was talking about earlier. You need to come into that centered space, to come into your auric field, to come into that little bubble, I'm going to say, so it's easier to understand. And then you will retrieve all that information that is going to take you on the path forward. You see, what we don't want you to do is gallop ahead or be too busy looking behind you, because you come out of that space, you step out to your auric field. I'm going to say it like that a little bit, my dear. You step out to your auric field and you come out of your own spirit space, out of your heart space, and you come too far forward and too far behind. Do you see what I mean? So come into that moment, look around you. We've been teaching this with Janine a lot, but she doesn't always do it. But that is what I'd like to say.
Okay, I love that. Thank you. Would anybody else have any last words of wisdom or inspiration they would like to share?
We could talk for many hours, of course, but it is entirely up to you, my dear.
I don't want to keep Janine too long. It's been an hour.
We shall bring her back then, of course. We are quite happy, but I'd say try not to look too far behind you either, because when you're looking in that energy behind you, you're sort of living from the past, aren't you? Those past memories and past vibrations, they are not going to serve you and move you forward. It's a little bit like cells in the body, isn't it? Richard would explain that at great length, but we haven't got all day today to do that. But those cells and vibrations change all the time. You just got to allow the change and allow yourself to move forward. Those changes need to happen, don't they, my dear?
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
I will bring her back because she's a little bit tired now, and she will be getting in the way, my dear.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
God bless you, my dear.
Thank you, Richard.
Oh, hello.
Welcome back.
Oh God, I didn't want to come back. I could feel myself going back down again.
Oh,
I'm there. Oh, my bum. Oh, my bum's numb. It's
I
frozen to
want.
the sea.
I wanted to keep going, but it had been an hour, so I thought I better bring you home again.
And so I wasn't here till tomorrow morning. Well, hello. Oh God.
How are you? Okay? You doing okay?
I'm all right. My awareness was coming back. But I didn't want to come back. If that makes any sense. I felt myself drifting again. I could just make out your voice as I was coming back. And I just felt myself going back down. And
well, I think they were surprised and wanted to talk more, but it's been an hour and I don't like to keep you too long because we've been on for almost an hour and a half, over an hour and a half.
It's all right.
You know how you get tired with that. So boundaries. It was a beautiful conversation. They're always so helpful and wise and and deep and blow my mind. It's like, okay, wait a minute. We talked about mental health and how.
Oh God, you didn't, did you?
We did.
I don't remember anything really. I remember little bits of it, and I could feel spirit pushing me back. I think I tried to nosy in at one point, and I can't remember when that was. It's so hard to keep out the way sometimes, isn't it? It's just like
Well, I couldn't answer that because I haven't gotten to the level you're at. So kudos for what you do.
I wouldn't class myself as experienced at all. I'm just still learning, just like you are, you know, like we all are. We're all learning.
I hope we answered. I didn't ask all the questions. I know we got to the depression question in a roundabout way. And the only one I didn't ask was Kundalini and there was one other, Kundalini and something else. So next time I'll keep that. I didn't get to all my questions either. But it was fun. It was nice. It was lovely. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know
I'll have to listen back and see what they said.
Yeah. There's a lot of Janine's going to be surprised at this, like they always say. But it was beautiful.
My guys have got this fascination with saying my name all the time because when I'm teaching trance as well, some people say, don't say my name when you come to my guide. Don't say their name because it distracts them in trance. But it's really weird because my guides are always saying my name in trance, but it never brings me out. I don't know. Maybe it's something they've just got me used to doing. Do you know what I mean? Them doing, if that makes any sense. So.
It almost felt like sometimes a trigger word to remind you to go back to your pasture or wherever you're at. You know, like you're becoming aware. So go back. Don't be aware. A couple of times that was the feeling I got when they said Janine's trying to nosy in again here. It's like, Janine, go back. It's not time. Go back.
It's so hard. It is so hard to let go, though, isn't it? Because every time I go into trance, I know that there's always going to be elements of our personalities there because we'd have to be dead if we weren't there. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I always say to my guys, the less I'm there, the better it's going to be. And I just, we always got this thing. We cannot afford to get in the way, can we?
Right. Absolutely. Hold on 1 minute. Okay. I agree with you.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I hope it encouraged you all. I hope it was helpful. We went into some interesting conversations that I was surprised about. I'm going to say that again. At one point I was like, I'm going to ask another question, and I wasn't finished with the first one. So I kind of was like, oh, should I move on?
What the hell did you talk? What did you talk about? I mean, what the hell? What did you ask?
I don't remember the question that started, but it was about souls that get stuck between worlds and some mediums that help them through and the why. And my belief system is that they don't get stuck. So it was really intriguing for me to be able to ask more questions about that. So that's what my brain was like. Part of my brain was, this is your belief system. This is what they're saying, but they're in the reality and your belief system is not. So how do you make peace with that?
Really
interesting.
So what did they say? I'm going to have to listen back because I don't know. I mean, I believe what you believe. I don't think they really get stuck, do they? They just do what they want.
I just don't think that at this moment I have to go back and really chew on what they said because it made sense, but I should have probably dwelt more on that because I was really curious, but they were saying how some people, when they go over, I'm trying to go back and unpack what I heard, but they go back, are on the way going back. They don't want to go back. And so they try to stay here. But something Richard said about they go back, but they want to come back. So it's almost like they come back for another life. But I wasn't sure if he meant, I have to go back and listen, if he meant they come back in another soul, if they come back in that same soul, or what they do. But it was intriguing. And so that's why you have some people that help them to go to the light and stay in the light, because they have to, go into the light for that lifetime. I don't know. I got to go back and listen to it again.
Because sometimes I'll listen to what Richard says, and sometimes I can see when I'm looking back at the gatherings that he's trying to push me further out the way to bring more intellectual stuff through. Mm-hmm. But the trouble is, what's happening sometimes in my trance is that he knows that I won't believe some of it. So that's when I get in the way of the trance. Do you know what I mean? Because my mind believes a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Certain things that we've learned, isn't it? Our belief system. So that spirit world have got to fight past our belief system.
Right.
Haven't they?
Well, that's what was happening. If you got, and by the way, everybody saw me jump. Yes, I jumped. Something literally fell off of somewhere in my house again. So I'm just telling you that right now.
I was in trance.
Yes.
Really?
And I haven't done anything. Nobody else is here. And all of a sudden I hear this big boom. And I don't have anything precariously. I was like, now I got to go hunt what fell so I can laugh. But yes, I did jump and my head went the other way as my awareness was scared. But whatever. After we talked about that.
How loud was it? Was it really loud?
It was, you probably could hear it in the recording. I would imagine that was that loud. So I have no idea what fell where, but I have nothing that would fall right there at that moment. Anyway, but in that, my thinking process was really my fighting. Did you, Sharon said she heard it. I was like, did you see me jump, Sharon? I was like, what the F?
Oh my God.
After that whole conversation we had, are you kidding me? You are funny, God. Spirit. But in my thinking process, when Spirit, Sharon said she jumped as well.
Like, oh my God, we're getting physical phenomena on a live stream. That's hilarious.
I will post whatever it was when I go find it, because I have no idea what it was. It sounded like it was in my kitchen, but I don't have anything. I mean, okay, I will post whatever it was. But my thinking process was really debating my experience of mediumship and never finding anybody who has not crossed over. And thank you for all that said, yes, your person passed and you can connect right away. And I do believe that. But my question after that was, can we connect with spirit that's in between worlds? Because people say, I can't connect with that spirit because they're stuck between worlds. And I didn't believe that to be true. Mm-hmm. And that's what Richard said, is that you can connect because you're not connecting with the spirit, you're connecting with their soul. You can always connect with everybody's soul, whether they're here or in spirit. So it was just really interesting, but I had to battle my belief system to what Richard was saying. And so it was like,
it's funny because even though I don't remember what's been said and have no memory of it, it felt like the whole trance session actually felt like I was battling with Richard.
Weird.
Not battling, not like that.
Yeah,
you're saying about like I wasn't willing to let go because he's pushing and pushing and pushing me to let go more and more and more. And the more I resist, the more I get in the way, the more I resist. Yeah. And do you know what I mean? It's going through that now in the development. See, he's trying to let's just push Janine a little bit further. And you can, I mean, I'm sure anybody who watches me in trance can see the moments where Richard's trying to bring more advanced stuff through, and then you can see Janine get in the way.
Well, I got in the way on that one too. I'm like, what? No way.
Well, and I don't know what you said. I'll probably say no way when I listen back later. But
I almost actually said something like that to Richard, like, no way, Richard, come on. And then I thought, well, I don't want to be rude. And I thought, I almost asked Richard, do you have a sense of humor? Can I be funny with you, or do I need to be a serious interviewer?
Richard so was serious. I mean, it's weird because when in the early days when Ethel used to come through, I used to literally get in the way of Ethel all the time, and I would get in the way, and I'd start listening to what she was saying in the early days when she first came through. And I'd say, well, she's not coming out with all this intellectual stuff like Richard. That can't be happening. And then I can't remember who spoke to me. It was another medium, and they said, look, not everyone's going to speak like Richard. Just accept Ethel as she is. You know, she's not going to be like Richard. She's a different personality, a different spiritual person and spirit. And yeah, it's really hard when they're all coming through. And if any loved ones come through, it's really hard for me to attach so quickly, because they come in like so fast, don't they? It's just trying to get out of the way even further. It's really difficult.
I have to say, though, Ethel was a lot stronger today, a lot more. It's funny because they were talking about how even in the spiritual world, they're learning and they have choice. Like they're doing the same thing there that we're doing here, as we know. But she really was a lot more assertive and a lot more strong, I think, in her wording and the way she talked, in her wisdom. But she still had her own way about her at the same time. I thought I was really surprised at that. It's been a while since I've done an interview.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know from one day to the next, how they come through or who's going to say what or whatever. It just depends. But they got their own little personalities, don't they? And
I was waiting for Jack. Jack didn't come through. Just saying that now.
Jack hasn't come through for a long time.
I'm waiting. I'm telling Jack, I'm waiting. Alice only came through for a short time. She did come through, though. Alice came through, Ethel came through, and Richard came through.
Yeah, they're the three main ones that come through. There was somebody called Margaret. She tends to come through at the gatherings. I don't know why. She tends to come through. She's been through once or twice in the last couple of months, but I think some guides come and go. I mean, I remember a guide that used to talk through me called Charles, and he was confirmed by a medium that he was my dad in another lifetime, and he spoke through me in the very early days of my trance development. And he came through before Alice, but he very rarely comes through now. I don't think anybody's ever heard him speak. So it just changes.
Sharon loves Jack too. So we're just all putting out in the energy that Jack needs to drop by again shortly.
The trouble is, now you said Jack,
he's going to come by.
Get in the way. Do you see what I mean? Spirit have to come through when they want to come through, not because it's right, Jack, come on, get your ass down here, mate.
No, we're not forcing the spiritual world. We're just putting the intention out that, Jack, we're here waiting for you. We want to hear from you again because you were hilarious.
Oh, he came through. I think he came through at a point in my life where I felt quite. I think he was trying to help me grow a backbone. Because I was getting a lot of attack by social media, by the mediums at that time. And he came through my trance at that point. And I remember Jack very clearly used to come through meditations as well. And he said, I came to work for you at this point to help you be stronger. And I think different guides do come through at different times of our lives, don't they? And I think it's the same with trance guides, isn't it? I mean, I know Richard and the two, Alice and Ethel will always be with me. I know they will. I know that they're my main three guides now. But as far as the rest of them, I don't know. They'll probably come and go, and who knows?
Sharon and I will keep up the hope that one day Jack will say hi again. We will have that hope.
God.
Yeah, Jack says it the way it is. Anyway, thank you all for being here. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please put it in the chat. We will get back to them. And thank you for your input. I hope I got to the most important questions. And thank you, Janine, so much for being here and sharing this time with us. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you. Because honestly, I love coming on with you. It's such a ball, and it's always positive and wonderful, and I just love being on here, so it's great. I thank you and your guides anyway,
and we love your guides. Thank you to all of the wisdom that they share. So I want to say to everybody, thank you for being here. Please remember all that Richard said about the intention and the way that we form our mind and what we're thinking about, that makes a big point or a big part of whatever it is that we're doing or going forward to. So take on the next holiday season as we deal with the craziness. And the next year, I know there's a lot of people that talk about next year is going to be a hard year. The next year is going to be crazy, whatever. it's our intention and the way that we're looking at it. So don't allow that to swayed you into the negativity or being down or feeling like you can't do it. Remember what Richard said about the intention. He talked about that and the fear. So go back into, and one of the things that I always do, and when I'm talking to people, especially when you're doing mediumship, a lot of people do it from the mind, but you have to do it from the heart. And that's what Richard talked about. You got to go back into the heart space, because that's where the truth of being able to live your life in a positive way comes from. It comes from your heart. When you go into your head, you're going to go into anger or you're going to go into fear.
Oh my God. Just as you said that.
Yeah.
Just as I said that, I just saw something. I heard Richard saying in my ear, saying about, I don't know, something to do with the heart and energy. And I don't know, he started writing on about something else. So I just probably would have gone on if you asked more questions. He's just put something in my head I don't actually understand. I can't make any head or tail of. He's just showing me the heart now. He's showing me the arteries. This is me explaining it, not Richard. He's showing me the arteries, and he's showing signals of communication from spirit to each of the arteries of the heart to stimulate the healing. Oh my God, I wish I was still in trance now. But he's just shown me that to tell you that they bring the healing into the heart. So if we remain open in the heart, okay, Richard, he's being really clever, wasn't he? If we remain open in the heart, we will receive the healing of spirit if we work in the heart space. That's what he's left you with, out of trance. I can't make you describe it a lot better than I've just.
No, it actually makes sense. It makes sense, because what I started doing a while ago was sitting in the energy of unconditional love, which really perpetuates you out of your head and that part of fear, that part of not good enough or worthiness, I guess, where you come from the heart space and you're coming from the truth of which he talked about, the truth of who you are, your soul. You're connected to your soul. So that would make sense, because if you think about the blood flowing, it flows in and out of your heart. And if you're like sitting in that, knowing that that's where unconditional love is, and you're not coming, as he talked about again, is we have three brains, right? Our mind, our heart, and our gut. Our gut is a big part of it too, which a lot of us don't utilize. And we don't even take for, we take it for granted. We don't really utilize it. So it really does come to the heart it's pumping. It's like keeping everything moving, and your heart center is like the main artery of life. If you don't have your heart, you're not here. So I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah. I can see him trying to explain something now, and I can see it in my head, but I can't even explain it to you. I don't know. It's just
And you're right, Sharon. Your heart and your gut never lies to you. Your brain will. Your heart and your gut will never lie to you. When you follow those two paths, you will be on a good road. Unfortunately, we don't believe our heart and our gut. We believe this fear that's like, no, you should do this. You should marry that man. No, I'm joking. Hence I digress. Sorry. Whoops.
We'd have wasted. We'd have saved ourselves so many years of pain.
Oh, okay. I'm going to listen to my heart, not my mind anymore. Anyway, we can go on and on. Thank you, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, all the things that everybody celebrates. Just have a beautiful holiday season. Remember, even if there's somebody in your family you don't like, hug them, because they're hurting just like anybody else is hurting. And it's all just a lot of nonsense on this planet, because like Richard said, it's our souls that are really having the experience. So get through this season.
And thank you, everybody who came, and thank you, Joanne. Honestly, thank you.
All right. Big hugs to everybody. Bye.